So hello everybody, my name is William Bench and I'm the founder of the Aquatic Life Institute. I hope you guys have been enjoying the conference. I can't believe it's already the last day. Welcome to the last session of the final day of the conference. In this panel, we're going to hear from experts who are developing innovative technologies that could help improve welfare in capture fisheries. Some housekeeping reminders first for attendees. The audience will be muted upon entry with camera off. Please post your question in the Q&A box. We're looking forward to hearing them. Every session will be recorded. We expect a respectful and productive discussion and have zero tolerance for harassment and discrimination of any kind. This session will be 1 hour and we are very grateful to have 4 panelists on that session. So now let me introduce our panelists. First, we will have Alex Lerchundi, manager of Efectivos Navales del Atlántico, based in Spain. Thank you so much, Alex, for being there.
Thank you.
Then we will have Mike Breen, principal scientist at the Institute of Marine Research, based in Norway. Then Jenny Bosmesa, director of Ace Aquatech, based in Canada. And then finally, Stefan Kildal, CEO of Askvik Aqua, based in Norway. So really grateful for our 4 panelists coming from all corners of the world to be present for this session. So now we lead the floor to Alex to go with his presentation. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you very much, William. Greetings, everyone from Spain. I will try to speak as clearly as possible for everyone to understand. My name is Alex Lerchundi. I am now quickly going to share the screen for you to check info about my company. My company is called Efectos Navales del Atlántico. We are specialists in longline fishing, both surface and bottom, and we are also specialists in tuna pole and line fishing, what is called the tuna 1x1 fishing. And today, as you said, we are discussing on innovative techniques for stunning devices or stunning techniques. We have one. We designed one a few years ago. It is a device designed for large pelagic species and for line fishing. That means it is a device used for large pelagic, which is tuna and swordfish, and line as the fishing method, which will include hand line, rod line, or long line. That means this is important because this device won't work with other type of fishing techniques. So it is basically only able to function when there is a line in place. So, and now back to the basics on how it works.
Oh, yes, Alex, sorry to interrupt for 1 second.
Yeah.
We cannot see your screen, so maybe there's a sharing option we need to enable. Sorry about that, yeah. Or...
Sorry, okay, hold on.
Should be like the green share button at the bottom, yeah. If you don't see it, let us know, we can enable it. Apologies for that.
Hold on, just 1 second.
Perfect. It's coming up.
Yeah.
Very good. Thanks, Alex.
So yeah, back to the basics on how this device works. It is a stunning device, as I was saying, for basically it's for tuna, for large tuna. It is it is pretty simple. It is a modified welding machine installed inside the bridge and connected to the batteries. Or if not, if no batteries are available, if it's a smaller vessel or is a small coastal vessel, it can be activated by a small generator as well. You will see the machine here, and as I was saying, from the modified welding machine, you will have a long cable that ends up with an electrode, and the electrode is attached to the line when the fish is on, when the fish is hooked. When that happens, the electrode will slide down from the line to the fish mouth, and then you will switch on the device and you will press this button that will give the shock to the fish. 3 to 4 seconds will be enough to stun the fish and sedate him, and well, the vessel will remain completely still. It is later on when the fish is lifted up that the fish is slaughtered on board. There, as you all pretty much know, there will be a few techniques like the spiking or ikejimi, Japanese technique, or percussion or hammering. But from our feedback, and this is feedback from our customers, the fish is stunned during the whole process. Okay, so this is basically how the machine works. It is, as I said, it's a pretty simple device that was designed a few years ago, and now, well, you are probably thinking why was the motivation behind this device? And here I must be completely honest. It is a device designed by fishermen and for fishermen. This is actually, or in other words, for the industry, and this is because it really complies with two basic requirements: that it makes operation easier. There is no struggle. There is no struggling with the fish, so the crew can really easily lift up 250 kilogram fish, for example. And secondly, without the struggle and without the stress, the meat is better. So there is no lactic acid, and at the end, well, they will get a better product, if I may say so. And that is at the beginning. This was the motivation behind this equipment. But today we are discussing if these techniques could really help the other side of we have on one side we have the industry that has a few questions that we have already answered with a yes. Does it make operation easier? Yes, it does. Do we get a better product because the meat is better? Can we get a higher price for the meat? That is also a yes. But we have to answer now other questions. That is why my company is currently cooperating with institutions and institutes, both nationally and internationally, to try to answer other questions. Is if these techniques are really minimizing the pain and are really minimizing the suffering from the fish, because it's only when we find the balance here and when we scientifically prove how these techniques are going to affect neurologically and biologically the fish. If we can really minimize the pain and the suffering, then I see a good balance there. I see a clear direction where to move forward. for research and then for implementation for the industry and not only in hardline fisheries but in other fisheries. That is my opinion on the subject, on the matter, and now it's back to you, William.
Great, but thank you so
Thanks
much,
for
Alex.
having me.
Yeah, that's great. No, thank you so much for the presentation, and yeah, congratulations on your product, because it's like thanks to some of these innovations that some of those welfare improvements will be able to be implemented in real life. So yeah, congratulations. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
So now we're gonna go with our second panelist. So if you wanna go ahead, we'll hear from Mike Breen, again, principal scientist at the Institute of Marine Research from Norway. So Mike, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, William. Let me just try and share my screen. Okay, can people see that?
Not yet. Yeah, it's showing up. That's good.
Is that good? Right, excellent. Okay. Right. This session is predominantly about stunning, and I think that's originally why Christine and Wasim invited us to take part. But I've spoken to Christine about this, and I felt it would be useful for everybody here in this session if we provide a bit of balance and talk about some other technologies which can maybe help us at least understand what the welfare issues are in terms of the capture process, and also how we can try and promote welfare. But I will come back with something on stunning, or in support of at least humane slaughter techniques at the end of the capture process. So the example we're going to talk about today is specifically on purse seine fishing. And as you can see from this long list of names, I'm only one of a large team of people who's been working on this from a number of different institutes. So I'm just one voice of represented many. So the if I can start with our basically what is our fundamental approach, our strategy towards addressing welfare, and we deliberately don't deal with the ethical aspects of it, where we take very much a functional approach because we're trying to work directly with the industry. So this is the functional definition of welfare that we work to, which is good catch welfare practices are capture and handling methods that minimize the physical damage to and the allostatic load or stress upon any retained fish until they are either slaughtered or they are released. And so what we mean by that is if you want to improve catch welfare, you need to minimize stress and injury. That has to be an important focus of what we do. And that has benefits of both promoting release survival as well as improving meat quality. And the added benefits of this from a welfare context is that, of course, we improve the ethics of the fishery and the industry, but we also improve sustainability. This is obvious in terms of promoting release survival. Less obvious meat quality, but what we've demonstrated recently, at least in mackerel, is that catch-related stresses can not only impact immediate quality of the meat, but it can also impact shelf life, which in turn impacts wastage, which obviously if we can reduce wastage, reduce the number of fish we need to catch, that improves sustainability. All in total, this could improve the reputation of the fishery, and particularly linked with certification schemes, which has been one topic that's already been discussed in this interesting conference. And as well, it can impact profit, and that's very important for fishermen because that's indeed what that's what they're fishing for. They're trying to fish for profit and to improve their income. So moving on, what do we mean by stress? Well, stress is actually quite a complex process, but we can break it down into these simple components. An animal, fish in this case, experiences a stressor, something that it needs to avoid or escape or adapt to. And these can express themselves in a number of different biological levels: primary neuroendocrinological responses, hormones, physiological responses, and whole organism responses. And in particular here, we're interested in behavior, because this is an immediate response that we can start interpreting within microseconds of the fish experiencing the stressor. But stress doesn't necessarily mean poor welfare. It's a bit more complicated than that. It's when stress exceeds the capacity for the animal to cope that we end up in a poor welfare situation. Stress is a perfectly natural response to an animal's environment. And it's only when that animal can't cope and those stresses become maladaptive that we begin to have a welfare issue. Now, we've got all sorts of work going on in the background here, where we've been trying to establish operational welfare indicators and things to try and provide some linkage between stress and welfare outcomes. I'm not really going to discuss that today, but if you're interested, I've shared a list of references at the end of the presentation, which you can have a look at. Our example is purse seine fishing. I'm not going into a huge amount of detail, but in purse seine fishing, we're basically targeting, with large fishing gear, we're targeting large schools. And it accounts for about 25% of the global catch, which equates to approximately 180 to 560 billion animals per year. Now, from our perspective, it's an interesting capture method because it is highly effective. It's very fuel efficient. I know fuel efficiency has already been discussed today. It produces relatively high quality meat. It has minimal bycatch and it has minimal impact on the seabed. So potentially it's a very interesting fishing gear. It's also potentially selective. It's certainly species selective. The fishermen are targeting individual species, but it's also, they also have a preference for particular sizes of individual fish and also school sizes. And that relates to how much quota they have and what capacity they still have in their hold. So from the fish's perspective, how do they experience the fishing operation? Well, initially the school is surrounded by a net, a large net, which they initially don't perceive. Maybe they'll hear noises, but eventually as the net is hauled in, the space in which that school occupies is reduced, and the fish can experience fish-to-fish contact, fish-to-net contact. And ultimately, we can start to see hypoxia, the oxygen levels within the water they're in start to reduce. So if there is excessive crowding in those schools, we see physical injury and we see hypoxia, which all combined lead to what we collectively refer to as stress. Now, there are two outcomes for the fish in any one capture event. The first is slipping. We might want to release the fish if the school is too large or the size of the fish isn't what they want. It's not the right species. They can be released, and I'll speak more about the technique in a little while. What the fisherman is looking for is to take the fish on board. Now, in the Norwegian fishery, we use large pump systems, which brings the fish on board, and then they're pumped directly into refrigerated seawater tanks, which are super chilled water down to -1 degrees, and in which the animals die relatively quickly. Now, we're talking about technology today. The first technology we deal with is the vessels themselves. We're dealing with some of the most technically advanced fishing vessels on the planet, particularly in the Norwegian fleet. So that's our first advantage. That's our first tool. We also, within the projects I'm talking about, we've tried to take an integrated approach where we're bringing multiple streams of data together to try and answer this welfare question. And our first technology is hydroacoustics, sonar and echo sounders. Now, this is a very important tool for the fishermen. This is how they target the schools, but it's also important for us. We can interpret behavior. We can interpret the dimensions of the school, its position and depth, its density, and if we've got multiple frequency systems, we can also have a fairly good guess of what species we're looking at. We can also determine what the behavior of the school is before capture and during the capture or early capture process: swimming speed, direction, its order or cohesion within the school. And more recently, colleagues of mine, particularly Maya Tenningen, has been looking at, with scientific sonars, high resolution sonars, been able to look at the shape and dimensions of the net itself and how the school within the net during the early capture phase is interacting with the net. So we begin to start making inferences about welfare and contact, and potentially damaging contact. The next technology we've been playing with is stereo cameras. Now, with stereo cameras, we can get a three-dimensional picture of the water mass and the fish within it. And so from that, we start to get an idea of the size of the individual size of fish within that catch, which, as I said earlier on, is a very important parameter in terms of what the fishermen are looking for. So we can start to do this before the fishermen even start to catch the fish. We can deploy systems, either a probe, which is fired into the school, or by using ROV systems, we can start looking at the catch, or early in the capture process, we can do the same thing, and we can start to say whether we need to release these fish or not before they become too crowded, so that we improve their chances of survival when they are released. In terms of when we do release them, what we've developed in close partnership with Norwegian fishermen is a way of slipping the fish. And basically what we do is create a large opening in the side of the net through which we try and release the fish. Now, what we've been doing when we've been experimenting with this is we use multiple observation systems, different camera systems, inside, outside the net. One of our main tools has been what we refer to as the catch monitoring probe. This gives us information about behavior, and it gives us information about the environment, which I'll discuss in a little more detail now. In terms of environment, we use an oxygen logger. It's the Rinco 1D or the 3 we've been using in our systems, which gives us information about oxygen, depth, and temperature of the probe. Our camera system started with the simple GoPro and has evolved over time to use the Nikon 360 system, which gives us a 360 view right the way around. So we basically get retrospective pan and tilt on the camera, which is a very useful tool indeed when you're dealing with basically a semi-autonomous probe within the catch. Now, from the cameras, initially we were just looking after contextual information. Are we in the school or not? Are we looking at the environments within the school? But then we very quickly realized it started giving us information on the density of the school, as you can see here, but also on the behavior, and also the behavior during escape. And I'll just quickly show you this video. And sometimes, a lot of the time actually, we see during the escape process, we see very orderly escape. The school is in as good cohesion, which means maybe they're not so stressed. This looks promising for their survival. But unfortunately, there are at times we also see rather disorderly escapes. And this is very strongly associated with sort of basically too high crowding inside the net. So, as I said, we bring these data streams together. And from the top, we're looking at oxygen. We're looking at crowding density. We're looking at behavior within the net. The green indicates that we've got orderly behavior. And then we're looking at behavior at the discharge opening. And from this, we can come up with a collective score. And as you can see, for this particular slipping event, things were pretty well ordered. We had high crowding towards the end, but it didn't lead to what we considered to be a poor welfare event. This event was quite different. Here we had a very early onset of high crowding, which led to high disruption of behavior within the net. Also led to a drop in oxygen levels. This actually wasn't particularly threatening. It looks as though it was, but it wasn't life-threatening for the fish. But we did see almost continuous disordered behavior during the escape, which was a poor welfare event. So the next thing we've been looking at is what happens during pumping itself. So we've basically stuck similar probes on the pump heads as they're lowered into the catch, and this gives us information. First of all, we take samples of fish from that catch as it's pumped, and we take individual behavioural metrics, which we refer to as vitality metrics, which is all combined together as a score. We also take the same vitality metrics from fish we take from the storage tanks, the refrigerated storage tanks. And from these fish, we're also taking physiological measures. So we're getting indicators from all biological levels, which increases our ability to accurately describe the stress response in those fish. Now, in this case, here we'll take it from the bottom. Here we're looking at oxygen levels again. Again, we didn't see in this event, we didn't see any life-threatening hypoxia. Here's vitality. and the orange line indicates poor vitality. So for most of the pumping events, we had fairly good vitality, which was encouraging. Towards the end of the pumping event, vitality dropped. So we started to see fish beginning to die, essentially. And here we're looking at lactate. For most of the pumping events, we saw acceptable levels of lactate, which is indicates that the quality of the fish should be quite good. But again, towards the end of the pumping event, associated with the decline in vitality, we saw an increase in lactate, which we would associate as it would be a predictor of poor quality of the meat. Now, bringing all of these together, we see that we can basically map the whole. We can map welfare, the status of welfare throughout the whole of the capture process, using a number of different metrics, a number of different measures. And this suggests that during slipping, blade hauling and slipping, we could have some issues that we need to look more closely on. But certainly during pumping and slaughter, we have some definite issues that we need to look more closely at. And this is where I'm going to give you the last clue, or the last bit of evidence. And this relates to, here we have vitality and temperature. So we see vitality of the fish as they're entering the tank, and this quickly drops off as the fish quickly die due to the low temperatures in the water. So that's expected. But we see that we have a low lactate to begin with, but that quickly increases, very quickly increases. Now, this suggests to us that if we were able to stun these animals before they entered the tank, that maybe we could retain lactate at a lower level and improve quality. So that's where I hand over to the guys talking about the potential for stunning. So if I can just summarize, we need, for effective welfare monitoring and control, we need an array of different technologies, hydroacoustics, cameras, sensors, etc., at different phases during the capture process, and at multiple biological levels of stress response, including and specifically behavior. And these need to be integrated in real time. And this is a tough ask. So future work priorities for us are, we need informative and practical welfare, operational welfare indicators. We need robust and reliable observation tools and platforms. What you've been looking at so far are just prototypes, and they need to be looked after with, they need to be constantly maintained. We need technologies that could work in the industry, in the field. And we need machine learning. We need high tech. We need artificial intelligence to be able to start interpreting behavior automatically in real time. And most certainly what we've identified is we need humane slaughter methods. So I hand over to you guys now. Thank you very much for your attention.
Great, thank you so much for the presentation, Mike. And yeah, I'm very grateful that you opened up the subject a little bit. Like stunning is really one of the key interventions that is under our control in marine capture fisheries, but there are some other areas that we would love to see some progress on, and I'm really glad that you highlighted some of them. I would also like, if the audience is interested, direct the audience to our recent report on the key welfare recommendation for marine capture fisheries that Christine had authored. So yeah, where we also tried to tap into some of those other issues. So thank you so much, Mike. Great presentation. Keep up the great work. So now we're going to shift gear and go back to Jenny Bousema, the director at Ace Aquatic, who's based in Canada. So Jenny, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And I'm actually speaking to you today from Scotland, so a little bit of false advertising there, I'm afraid. But thank you very much for your invitation to speak today. So a quick introduction to me. I'm a research scientist. I'm a long-time collaborator with Ace Aquatic, and I'm a research fellow at the Institute of Aquaculture at the University of Stirling. And I realize I'm probably not sharing my screen. So if you'll bear with me a second, I'll see whether I can show you something more interesting than my face. Let me see. I'm afraid I'm on a
should be the share button at the bottom of the screen, and if you don't see it, we can try to enable it on our end, Jenny. Yeah.
Okay, let me have a look. I'm sorry, it's there we go. We have it? No, I still think we don't.
Not yet. Yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay, let's keep trying. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves for a moment. I'm sorry about this.
Yeah, and in the meantime, like if you guys want to have a look, like Christine pasted in the chat the link to the welfare marine capture fisheries welfare report that she authored. So yeah, thanks Christine for sharing it. Yeah.
I see. I'm so sorry. I seem to have got caught in a security permission, so I'm going to disappear and reappear in a few seconds, and hopefully then I will have a screen to share.
All right.
I can also share for her if in the end she can't share it, William.
That's a great idea, Christine. Yeah, perfect. Okay, very good. Or maybe while we wait for Jenny, I suggest maybe we can go to one question maybe to start. Maybe I have a question for Alex. So Alex, how do you think we can encourage more artisanal fishermen or women to uptake the stunning devices? Or is it mostly for the very large fleet and the very large fisheries companies? And what is the success rate of your device? And is there any way to shrink the time from 3 or 4 seconds and make it quicker at all? So yeah.
Okay, those are a few questions in a row. From the point of view of the industry, I was saying that for the fishermen, it is a device that really helps them. If we are talking about a small vessel, coastal vessel, for example, that has a small quota of tuna, for example. Normally, if they get a big tuna, 200 kilos or 300 kilos, they won't be able to lift up the fish alive. Probably what they will do is they will hook the handline to a buoy, and there the fish will struggle and suffocate till it dies. With this equipment, as soon as the fish is hooked, you will be able to slide down the electrode. And sorry, I had the camera off. You will be able to slide down the electrode, and you will be able to shock the hook within seconds. That so that will avoid any stress on the fish. And then once the fish is stunned, the fish is completely sedated and still, which means that the crew can easily lift the fish up on board. So from the fisherman point of view, it will save them losses, because sometimes the fish will get away, or and also it will increase the price from their catches, because the meat will be better, because there is no stress and struggle. So from the industry point of view, it is pretty straightforward and pretty simple to them. I mean, it really works out. But we have to find out now, and what I said before is that we are cooperating with several institutions, is to find out if those if these stunning techniques, in particular ours, for example, if this really we have to run test and really be able to determine what are the neurological and biological effects on the fish, if this is a really humane technique to pre-slaughter the fish, so to say. So from the industry point of view, I believe it is the option is clear, because it makes operation easier, and they will get a better product higher price. But
Great.
from
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, but from the other point of view, just we have to find out from scientific test if really these techniques helps minimize the pain and the agony from the fish when it is hooked.
Great, perfect. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
All right, Jenny, welcome back. So if you have trouble sharing, Christine could do the sharing for you too, but so you can give it a try.
Okay,
but perfect, it's working. Great, fantastic.
You have it now? Wonderful.
Yeah, perfect.
So apologies again for that. I'm so sorry. But here we are, we're back again. So that was, you know who I am. So ACE Aquatech, the company, is a company with a mission to develop technology that puts fish welfare first. And as we've alluded to today, in doing so, we see that when fish welfare is prioritized, you can often increase the value of your product. And that's something that's very interesting for industry and for whether aquaculture or wild catch. So ACE has some offices around the world. The headquarters is in Scotland. There's a team of 32 people now, and on the board we have Chroma Ventures, which are known for the Minecraft franchise, and Blue Growth Fund Aquaspark. So we have some really interesting companies really helping us to drive forward. And at ACE we have expertise in 3 core areas really. Artificial intelligence with a focus on AI weight monitoring cameras, acoustics for wildlife mitigation systems, and the focus of this talk and sort of my real field is electric fields for stunning in order to facilitate humane slaughter. So just to put things into context, if we look for a second at the scale of global fish consumption, according to the UN, we're on track for a global population of 8.5 billion by 2030, which is really quite soon. And currently, fish are the most consumed protein at 157 million tons. And this is sourced from a fairly even split between aquaculture near the shore and wild catch, with aquaculture probably looking to grow rapidly and wild catch likely leveling off. Wild catch accounts for 1 to 3 trillion individuals annually, and that's so if you stop and think about the numbers, the number of individuals that we're talking about is enormous. And in wild catch fisheries, for many of the individuals, welfare at death can be quite poor. So if we bring ourselves back and talk about what is the problem and why should we care about good stunning, and specifically why do we care about electric stunning? First off, a lot of consumers care. There were recent studies just a couple of years ago by Just Economics. They showed that European consumers, at least, are willing to pay more for humanely slaughtered fish. Supermarkets like Tesco's, they're driving forward with requests for humanely stunned fish. And we see regulation going that way as well. So this year, we've seen the Sentience Bill in the UK acknowledge that crustaceans are sentient and feel pain. It's likely that in due course, this will be followed by requirements to safeguard their welfare at slaughter, a bit like fish. That's a little way down the line. For producers and boat operators, when welfare is promoted, they often can see economic improvements in their business model. So it really can be, if done well, improving welfare can be very beneficial all around. We sort of talk quite glibly about improvements in economics. So just to kind of nail that down a little bit, what we're looking to see sort of from a financial and economic point of view, I suppose, is better flesh quality, less bruising, better coloration, fewer downgrades, and from the boat operator's point of view, from the harvest manager, reliable systems, not much downtime, and fewer injuries to staff. You talked earlier about fighting with great big tuna coming on board, and that's certainly something we see working with a number of industries, working with big fish and great big salmon and things. We see staff that are so relieved to not be fighting with the fish. So there's a lot of aspects where we can see some benefits. The alternatives to electric stunning things like carbon dioxide, that's been banned in parts of Europe for 10 years on welfare grounds. Similarly, the EU is pushing for sea bass and bream markets to pull away from killing on ice, again, on grounds of welfare. And killing in air has long been considered to promote poor welfare as well. So while these methods are routinely avoided in large sections of aquaculture, they're much more commonly seen in wild fish catch. And it's a very different industry moving through its own development phase. So just to sort of bring ourselves back to what we propose as a solution, what we do as a solution, I should say, we at Ace Aquatech have developed a simple and very flexible stunning system. It works well in aquaculture, very well suited to wild catch as well, in which we use HDU piping with embedded annular electrodes. It allows fish to be transported from a seine net or aquaculture cage. The fish, on entering the tubing, they hit the electrified stream of water and they're rendered instantly unconscious. We have spent a lot of time developing and calibrating the electric fields for appropriate to species and appropriate to water conductivities, to ensure that we're really getting that instant unconsciousness. So see what it looks like in practice. This is a little video from a Denmark, I think, where you'll see on the left the harvest, without electric stunning. This was their previous process. You can see them fighting the fish, and the fish obviously stressed and thrashing. This is going to lead to a lot of bruising, high lactate, probably quite quick breakdown in the flesh quality. Whereas on the right, you see the fish that are coming through stunned. So they've been through the stunner, they've been rendered insensible. You can see this is lasting unconsciousness. They're obviously out of the electric field now and still completely unresponsive. And so they can progress through the rest of the harvest and will die without recovering consciousness. And that's really what we're looking for in terms of welfare, is we're looking for instant unconsciousness, and we're looking for unconsciousness that lasts until after death. So from a fish's point of view, you want them never to know anything about it, and that's really what we're always aiming to ensure. So we've done a lot of work with this system to validate quality and to validate unconsciousness. We've done a lot of work together with the University of Bristol, and a lot of our customers have been very keen to work with us as well to ensure that we're really achieving what we set out to. So you see, we've looked for, obviously, if you've spent much time around electric stunning, you might know that one of the things we always worry about is carcass damage, particularly in the spine. So we've developed electric fields that work around that, and we've done a lot of work with our customers, evaluating the quality of their products to make sure that we're supplying them with something that they're really pleased with, a real improvement in what they're seeing. One of the very nice things about electric stunning in water is it's very, very flexible. So percussive stunning systems and some dry contact electric systems can be very, very susceptible to fish size. If you have a big fish or a small fish, some of them will get stunned really well and some of them won't get stunned well at all. The very nice thing, and one of the reasons we like to work with stunning in water, so that's why you saw that tube, you saw the fish are going through in a stream of electrified water, is every fish is in full contact with the electric field, and so it's very insensitive to size. If a big fish or a small fish goes through, they all get the same. It's sort of a bit self-dosing. They'll all end up unconscious. So there's, obviously, according to our customers who we're working with, we offer things on various scales. If someone says we want to do 60 tons an hour, we say, okay, we can do that. So that suits big aquaculture producers. Smaller producers, like a sort of a medium-sized system, and then the very smallest system that we're working on is a little batch stunner. And that's really suited for people who want to you do, a small batch of fish or a small handful of prawns, or, sort of, I suppose we talk about handfuls, but in aquaculture and wild catch, 20 kilos is a pretty small handful. But nevertheless, it's a significant part of the market, particularly when you come to producers, like carp and sort of smaller producers like that. So we can just have a look at a few of our systems actually installed. It's always nice to see some photos and see the real thing. So this is Avramar. This is sea bass. I think this is in Greece, if I remember rightly. This is a salmon system. This is in a wrasse farm in Switzerland. This one is specified for yellowtail and is in Germany, I believe. This is on a boat in Denmark. This is on a boat in Greece. So, there's sort of you start to get the impression there's quite a wide variety of environments that we're happy to deploy into. And then this is a conveyor system. So this very much the same principle, but just allows much longer immersion times for species that are good at recovering their consciousness, and really need a very long time to ensure that, although unconsciousness is achieved immediately, make sure that they don't recover before death. That's obviously something that we wouldn't want to see. So we really have a range of innovations that we're working on, all focused on reducing negative welfare at harvest, whether on vessels in harvest factories. We know all the latest evidence is agreeing that fish are intelligent animals. They're capable of a lot of behaviors that we would associate with intelligence. We know that they're capable of pain and suffering. And so we see that moving towards improving fish welfare is not just an ethical imperative, but it's the way the industry is going as well. And we want to ensure that we're there alongside helping people make that move as and when they're ready. So we work alongside a number of government bodies and certification organizations as well, to ensure that we're really at the forefront of moving things forwards. There are some existing customers talking about their experience working with the ACE stunners. I think we've pretty much always seen people very happy to move away from thrashing and splashing to a calmer, quieter system, both for the people and perhaps more importantly for the fish. So there we are. I'm sure there might be some questions. Sorry again for the technological delay at the beginning, but here we are.
No worries at all. Yeah, fantastic presentation, Jenny. Thank you so much. Yeah. No, and it's really nice to see that you're working on solutions at different scales for different type of producers. So that's kind of really exciting to see. So also being mindful of time, actually, the good news is that since we are the last session of the conference, we have more flexibility. So we'll be able to go past the hour to cover the questions, because very grateful for our great panelists and a lot of questions that are coming in. So finally, we have Stefan Kildal, CEO of Asvik, Asvik Aqua, based in Norway. So Stefan, go ahead. You can close out the presentation for us.
Thank you. And I will be on with my presentation very, very shortly here.
Yeah, we can see your screen. Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you. My name is Stefan Kildal. I am the CEO and also the operations manager of Asvik Aqua. We're a small, nothing is happening here. Sorry. We're a small technology development company based out of Hjelmeland in Rogaland, southern Norway. I'm just gonna give you a slight background, and I'm gonna cut right to the chase. I can see that time is moving along quicker than I was anticipating. So a small tech company based in Hjelmeland. We are more or less all aquaculture people. Our let's say main portfolio has always been around aquaculture applications. except for the last couple of years, we've been discussing more how we can introduce our novel technology to the wild catch fisheries sector. We really feel that there are improvements to be made, and applying known technology to a sector that is not so different from the large aquaculture companies and what they're doing is relatively easy, but it needs to be done right. So all we do in Askvik Aqua is promote and implement our own technology. It's all about applying science to improve welfare and improving the aqua and fisheries industry's environmental footprint, thus making the whole sector a bit more sustainable. So the problem to be addressed at this conference was, of course, the wild catch fisheries. I think it's difficult to get a grasp of wild catch fisheries because it's a really large field of both for technology and for the biology side. Mike was talking about purse seine. Alex was talking about large pelagic species and singular catch. It really needs different solutions to the different sides of the same problem, if you know. So what we have been looking into is how to really scale up the stunning equipment. The Askvik stunner is extremely flexible and can probably be used for, if we can do 50 tons an hour, we can also do 100 tons an hour, and then we can also, in theory, do 1,000 tons an hour. Because everything on the large pelagic fleet is so it's so massive. Pumping is at rates of 200, 400, 600 tons per hour, and we need to keep up with the tempo. We can't slow them down because then they will not consider even investing in what we are offering. So the problem is the prolonged asphyxia. It's the quality issues that follows that. And to our knowledge, that was one of the challenges we had from you guys at Aquatic Life Institute. How is the prevalence today? To my experience, it's relative to none. And it has, up to now, been about finding scalable technology. It hasn't been there. If you can't do it properly, you can't do it at all. That's more or less what the fishermen also say. The skippers on a purse seine vessel will be very reluctant to try out small scale solutions to one part of their activity. It will really be just slowing them down. So we need to address the whole issue when we hop on it. So the stunning solution itself is, of course, I feel this is very interesting, but it's all about how you implement it and how you or how we actually scale it to the right application. So I'm not gonna, of course, we are several vendors of stunning equipment here, but to some extent we're not even competitors because the market is so huge, and we just need to convince the market that what we do is not slowing them down but making them more money. So I'm going to get back to that, but in short, the Askvik electric stunner is it carries all the traits of Jenny and Ace Aquatech's equipment. It is a different technology, but the let's say the basis of it is the same. It's to introduce an electric field to the fish in water, and rendering it insensible immediately and keeping insensibility throughout the slaughter process. So this is all the same, and this is even the same for dry electric stunners and percussive stunners throughout the industry. Of course, ours is better, and but it's about scaling, and it's about kind of handling the electricity challenges that come with operating in seawater. That is one of that is a cost driver, and that is a safety driver, and it needs to be addressed properly. So I'm not going to go any more into that now, but of course, I suppose you will hand out contact information. So, sorry. If there are any takers on product information, I can forward it later. So what we need to discuss is the important drivers to boost welfare technology. Whether it's Ace Aquatech or it's Asquith Aqua or it's Alex down in Spain, we need to communicate the positive welfare business correlation. This is key to succeeding for all of us. If we can't, we will not make any money off it. We will not improve welfare. So this is really important. And I think it's been said by Jenny, it's been said by Mike and Alex as well, but it can't be emphasized enough. So it's not about only improving welfare. It's about improving the meat quality, the shelf life, the processing chain, the yield and reputation of the entire industry. And using the right technology, there will be no contradictions between good welfare and good business. And I've been working in the aquaculture industry and in the aqua feed industry for years. And we had a term to address quality issues. And we named we always addressed the cost of poor quality, because it's not just the quality itself, it's not the downgrading, it's not the price premium that you can't benefit from. It's all about the complexity that comes with it. So there's cost of poor quality, there's cost of poor welfare, and there's cost of complexity that needs to be addressed. And if we can get the industry to see these benefits, to calculate these numbers of increased yield and improved shelf life, 2 more days in stock in the stores, I think this will really be the thing that boosts fish welfare and stunning technology throughout wild catch fisheries. In aquaculture, as I see it, this is not a problem. They are always searching for improved solutions, and so they're more up to date with what's going on. And I just want to say, I don't have any more slides, but I just want to say in the end that we are currently working on a concrete long line project in Norway with a coastal fleet where we'll be integrating a new boarding, stunning, and unhooking system for long line caught species. This is for the coastal fleet. It's a bit lesser scale than the purse seine fisheries, but still it's important to address all these fisheries. As I said in the beginning, you can't make one solution for all, but you can make one principle count for all of the segments of the wild catch fisheries. So I think that's as far as I'm gonna go now, and I'll leave it back to you, William. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Stefan. Yeah, great presentation, great work on your devices, and really, yeah, grateful again that you're trying to expand to different fisheries method, because yeah, again, I think it's good to provide solution for everybody. So now we can move on to some questions. So my first question will actually be for Jenny and Stefan. So again, big proponent of those techniques, but one thing that want to be mindful of is, so how is brain activity tested to make sure we can prove unconsciousness? And then how is it tested both kind of in the lab in optimal condition when the machine is tested in your facility versus once it's set up on the boat where maybe the variable can be different, and to make sure that once the fishermen are actually using it, it still stays at the level where the fish are actually unconscious and not just immobile. So yeah, would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Stefan, would you like to speak first, or I'm happy to?
You could just start.
Okay, well, it's an interesting question. I've actually just rushed back to the office from the lab where I was busy measuring the brain activity in fish just this morning. So it's certainly something that we're very engaged in. Measuring brain activity is a really complex thing. I say this as someone who spent years measuring brain activity in humans before I decided that I was much more interested in fish. And it tends to be, it's often referred to as a gold standard, and it tends to be thrown around with an insufficient understanding of what that means and what we're looking for. So you see a lot of organizations, government organizations saying, we want to see brain activity. But when you turn around and ask them, okay, well, what would you like to see? Often people have a much looser idea of what they thought they wanted than they thought they had when they started speaking. And so there are a number of things you can look for in brain activity. You can look for the presence or absence of certain neural responses. You can look at the energy across the spectrum. So you can look in, various frequencies of wave and say, where is the energy? And there are a number of things that point towards consciousness or unconsciousness. I have not found one sort of single thing that I would say is a really strong indicator on its own of sensibility versus unsensibility. But the way we typically approach this question is to correlate it with veterinary anesthesia. So we take a fish that's completely unconscious, prepared for surgery by veterinary anesthesia, and we look at what's going on in the brain, and then we compare that to fish that have been stunned by other methods. And that's sort of the best approximation that anyone is able to come up with. And this is a field that's very much moving forwards at the moment. So, in a year's time, the answer might be different. So that's a little porthole view into the neuroscience of fish. What we then do in the field, and I'm sure Stefan will perhaps have a similar view, is we take our fish that we believe to be unconscious based on what we've seen. We look at their behavioral indicators, and fish have some very, very strong behavioral indicators of consciousness, which persist an awful long time because they're really basic survival reflexes. So there are certain behaviors, they vary a little bit by species, but there are certain behaviors that fish will do until the very last. And so we're then looking at those, we're saying, here's what we believe from measuring brain activity about unconsciousness, here's how the fish is behaving. Then when we're on a boat or on a farm or in an environment where measuring brain activity would be much more challenging and very difficult to convince yourself you were really getting anything apart from electrical noise, you look for those behaviors, and you monitor lots and lots of fish, and you make sure that you're not, or you record any fish that are displaying certain behaviors that would be indicative of returning consciousness. So it's a little bit of a long answer, I'm afraid, but it's an insightful question, and it's not a simple one.
Great, thank you so much, Jenny. Stefan, do you want to add something to that?
I think the answer was very good. It was long, but you can't answer this question with 3 words. It's complex, and what I feel is one of the challenges of whether it's from an ideological standing or from a government point of view, we can't ask for brain measurements or EEGs if we don't know what we want to see. So it's complex. Indicators are that you can see insensibility and awakening. I'm sorry, I'm going to rephrase that. You can see an insensible fish on the EEG have visual indicators that indicate that it's awake, and vice versa. So there are so many error sources here. And on the other side, I would say it's about invasive and non-invasive techniques. I'm not an expert on EEG. I'm an operational aquaculture and fisheries guy, so I know different things. But it's about how far do you want to go? How much do you want to kind of torment the individual fish to prove that it's not being tortured? So this is an important question as far as I can see. And I think also we need to recognize not all improvements are perfect, but as long as they are improvements, we need to allow them and allow the world to move on, to move forward. I think it's important. So thanks.
Great, thanks, Stefan. All right, so our next question so will be directed to Mike. So as you guys mentioned, so stunning technology is really a huge improvement for fish, but unfortunately it represents a small portion of the market right now. So for Mike, I'd like to ask you, like, what are the barriers to adoption to stunning technology, and how could aquatic animal welfare advocates like us and other people attending the conference help drive the adoption of this technology?
Good question. Okay, the barriers to adoption. I think the initial barrier, which Jenny, Alex, and Stefan have all spoken about, is it's still a developing technology. Now, Jenny encouragingly demonstrated, and I know Stefan, because I've been working with both Stefan and Alex in the past, but so I know Stefan and Jenny are looking at scaling up. But she spoke about her large scale system, and I think it was 60 tons per hour. Was that right, Jenny? Yeah.
Yeah, I think 60 tons an hour is the biggest that anyone's asked us to build so far.
Yeah.
But in principle, it's just bigger pipes and bigger electronics, and how much that costs.
Well, that's very good to hear, because in terms of purse seine, particularly purse seine for small pelagics, we'd be looking at several hundred tons per hour that would need to accommodate. So it's about scale and effectiveness, but it's also about, it's a large capital investment, a stunning system, particularly on that scale, and not only large capital investment, but it requires considerable power. So the basically the carbon footprint of the fishing operation will increase. That needs to be considered, and actually, well, for some fishing operations, for example, trawling, pelagic trawling, that's reasonably high power usage already. But when you look at purse seine for the catch, it's basically I can't remember the name of the paper, but there was a paper done, I think it was in +1, maybe 10 years ago, and they looked at fuel consumption across the different fleets, and the surrounding gears, the purse seines, for example, they were by far the most efficient, and you were dealing with sort of, instead of, as has been discussed earlier in this conference, instead of many tons of fuel per ton of fish, or many thousand liters of fuel per ton of fish, we're talking only hundreds of liters per ton of fish. So it's a considerable saving in a considerably small footprint. Stunning is likely to add to that more significantly. Also, demonstrating effectiveness, that is going to be important in terms of legislation, because in Norway, already within the legislation, is we do need to demonstrate that the animals are stunned within less than 1 second. And that requires considerable research investments, either for the individual company or I work for a government institute. We're trying to help out, but trying to get the funding for that. So that's one obstacle, is just trying to get the funding to help prove these systems work. So yeah, that's I think that's the barriers. How can we convince the ship owners to start investing in this technology? Well, as I said at the beginning of my talk, one of our strategies is if we link that with quality, and we link that with reputation, and we link it with certification, they are all important motivators, and that'll start to persuade and convince the ship owners and the investors to invest the capital and improving their fishery, we believe.
Great, and maybe to follow up on what you just mentioned, Mike, so do you believe that maybe we should or could advocate for mandatory regulation for stunning on board of fishing vessels? Like, do you think that, it might be more likely, well, of course, in some countries than others, but wondering what your thoughts are on that, if it's something you're excited about, that you could see happening, or it's kind of a very long way from today?
In terms of mandatory regulation, Chris and I had a little chat about this a few weeks ago. Well, I personally believe I don't think we're there yet. Mandatory regulation can be very useful in terms of creating change. I mean, an interesting example of that is the landing obligation in the European Union, which was began in 2014, was phased in over 4 or 5 years, and that has led to change in some cases, but not in all. And so if you introduce legislation too early, you run the risk of having legislation which is meaningless, which can't even be prosecuted. It can't be implemented. And I don't think we are. And this is up to the technologists to answer this question. But I don't think we're at the stage where we could begin to legislate for a technology which is so early in its development. I think by doing that, you create too much of a burden, and it would basically turn investors off. I think later down the line, and in collaboration with not only the technologists but also the end users, I think with an adult conversation amongst all of them, where they can agree on what is reasonable legislation which would help to drive the industry forward, I think then that is the time.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike. All right, so we went kind of 10 minutes over, so it was such great panelists, last session of the conference. So thank you so much, everybody. So thanks to the panelists, thanks to the audience member for joining both this session and the entire conference. In terms of our next call to action, we will be at COP27, calling on global leaders to further conversation on aquatic animal welfare and its nexus in climate and sustainability. We'd appreciate if you can help amplify our message on social media. We're going to share it in the chat. And since this is our final panel, we just wanted to say again that we appreciate you joining us for this year Aquatic Life Conference. It's our second one. We wouldn't have these events if it wasn't for your interest. If you were interested in the continuous improvement in aquatic animal welfare, thanks to the work that the panelists do, the work that all the advocates who are joining are doing. So thank you all for making it another successful event. We're going to close out the day with an open office hours, so where anyone can join. So if you guys want to stay on the link, anyone who want to chat with the Aquatic Life Institute staff or with the panelists or anybody, you can come and we can put you on stage and we can all chat together. So again, thank you again to the panelists. Thanks to all the attendees, and see you guys next year for the third conference.
Thank you, William. It's been an honor to be able to speak to you guys, and I've been hopping in and out of the presentations all week, and it's been very, very interesting. So thank you very much for the invitation, and nice to see you guys again, Stefan and Alex, and really nice to meet you, Jenny, for the first time.
Likewise, thank you.
Same to you, Mike.
Thank you all so much. Great to have you. Really interesting panel.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Thanks, Chris, for inviting me in the first place.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.